again, everyone. My name is Lori White. I'm the president of the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce, and we are here today with a very, very special episode of Chamber TV. In fact, it's episode number 213, and we are so excited to celebrate it with the team from Digimentors and Sreenivasan, our friend and mentor on so many fronts with digital communications. In fact, Sree, you were responsible for teaching us this platform back during the beginning of COVID. How have you been?
So happy to be here with all of you. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. So what we're doing today for all of our listeners and viewers is Sree has been very gracious to join us, and he is going to be talking about a topic that you can't go anywhere without people asking about, wondering about, fretting about in some circumstances, and that's the impact of AI on our business. And for many of us, we may not know exactly what kind of impact it's going to have on our day-to-day workflow. The word is that we will begin to use AI and we'll rely on AI much like we do with the modern day calculator and Excel spreadsheets and the like. But to be able to use AI as a tool, one of many tools, not something to be feared, but certainly something that can take the routinization out of things and also free up more time for more creative pursuits on the job. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sree to guide us through this really interesting episode, a non-scary guide to AI, as he is calling it. And this is really targeted and directed at those of us who are non-techies. So with that, Sree, I know that you are one of the globe's top digital influencers, and you have been for quite some time, at least the better part of the last decade or so. So we're so happy to have you here. And I'm going to turn it over to you to walk us through this, your slide deck.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lori. And thank you to the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce and to all my friends who are on the team there, as well as everyone watching. Welcome. I've just arrived from Dubai in India, where I was doing these workshops. And it was interesting to hear their questions. You know, a place like Dubai is very much at the forefront of these kinds of technologies, but even there were very interesting questions. They have a ministry of artificial intelligence, so that tells you how much they think about this kind of tech and how we all can learn together. That's the main thing. Thank you very much for being here, everybody. The best way to use this presentation is to make sure you have a piece of paper or on your screen or on your phone. Make some notes. You know, I like to have two columns, one that says things to try now, things to try later, because I'll be showing you so many names, tools, tips, all of that I'll be throwing at you pretty fast. So we want to make sure you have a chance to note some of those down. You can make a third column. I can't believe Lori invited this guy to speak to us, but I'm hoping you will find a lot of value in what we're doing. We're going to tackle some big picture ideas and also some small ideas around some practical things as well, and we call it our non-scary guide. You can see information about me on the screen, and you can also see the link to the presentation, and I'm sure Lori and team will send this out to all the folks who have registered, but if you want to grab it off the QR code, you can do that as well. I'm going to go for about 30-40 minutes, and then we're going to do some Q&A, but feel free to ask questions on the platform where you're in. We're on the GPCC Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter account. So please jump in and post your comments, questions, and even your favorite AI tip that everyone should know. We will be happy to take a look at that. And I also mentioned here my newsletter where I talk a lot about AI. So if you are interested in that, you can sign up for that as well, right on Substack, like everyone else. Our company, Digimentors, does a lot around digital marketing and communications, PR, all of that stuff. We do a lot of training, but we also do event amplification, and the things that we're focused now around on AI are doing these kind of workshops, but also crafting AI policy and strategy and AI scenario planning. What are you going to do about AI for your company? What are the best case scenarios, worst case scenarios, and everything in between? So that's what we do at digimentors.group is our website. My work is built around two big ideas, and I'm going to show them both to you on two separate slides. The first is what I think of as the most important slide I'll show you today, that the scarcest resource of the 21st century is human attention. How do we get it, grow it, and keep it is so important. So something to think about in everything we're doing. And the second is the theory of the two footprints. We all have two footprints. One is all the physical footprint that we have and all the people who love us and know us and hire us and work with us. And the digital footprint is everyone else in the world. And if you don't increase your digital footprint, you are leaving opportunities, money, impact, influence on the table. And that's how we try to think about the world of digital, including, of course, what AI is and what it means for all of us. As you can see, I've been teaching this stuff for a long time. I used to have hair, and computers used to look like that. Things have changed all over the world, including on top of my head. One of the things that I'm very conscious of is how hard it is to keep track of tech. These are just Apple headlines in one day. Apple headlines on a single day. So many things coming over the Bloomberg machine, which means it's hard for us to keep track of all of this stuff. When you look at valuations, right, you can see that 10 years ago, the collected valuations of some of these big brands was at a certain number, and now it's so much higher, 10x. But it's very hard to keep track. But even these brands are not easy to even remember, because this set that you're seeing on the screen right now, they are all household names, but you don't know these names. You can probably guess that Auction Web became eBay, but do you know the rest of them? I'll give you a second to just look at them, but you know that it's not easy to figure out which everyone is. But let's tell you this. So Backrub became Google, Cadabra became Amazon, Auction Web became eBay, Peekaboo became Snapchat, Bourbon, Instagram, Matchbox became Tinder, Kibble became Netflix, and Sound of Music became Best Buy. And this is just an example of how much things change in the world of technology, that just even being aware of names, let alone what they do, how they do, should I invest in them? Should I use them in my work? That's all very hard, and that's happening even faster in the world of AI and how to track that. The numbers you see on the screen now are talking about what is the estimated boost to the global economy by AI per Goldman Sachs, the folks at PwC and Accenture. This is a huge moment, right? We see that technology has changed so much, that industries have changed, have been affected. But here you're seeing what this means as an opportunity for all of us in the field, and how do we use it? How do we respond to it? And Goldman Sachs put together this slide, that shows you the large share of the share of work that's exposed to AI-driven automation. Japan and the US, 25% plus. Mainland China and India, a lot less. But you can see that the changes that we've been talking about for a long time are now here, and something that we all have to be very conscious of as we're doing our work. One of the things that
happened in May of 2023.
Let me see if I can
Someone posted
and see if we can just play this video for you. Let me see if we can do that.
May of 2023. Someone posted this AI-generated image of what appeared to be a terrorist bombing at the Pentagon.
Today, we may have witnessed one of the first drops in the feared flood of AI-created disinformation.
It was shared on Twitter via what seemed to be a verified account from Bloomberg News.
It only took seconds to spread fast. The Dow now down about 200 points.
2 minutes later, the stock market dropped $500 billion from a single fake image. Anybody could have made that image, whether it was intentionally manipulating the market or unintentionally. In some ways, it doesn't really matter.
So just imagine what a single image did. 30, knocked down the stock market by $500 billion in just that single post going out. What does that mean for all the other posts that are out there and all the misinformation and disinformation we're going to get? When I was at the Met, people would ask me, how come we didn't have QR codes next to every painting? And I would say Americans are terrible at QR codes. They don't use them. But now you see I'm using a lot of QR codes here, and you'll recognize most of the platforms. One of the reasons why QR codes now work and are popular among Americans is because of the pandemic, and we started using them on menus, and then we all got addicted. But turns out that Apple put in a QR code in the iPhone in 2014, a QR code reader, and didn't tell anybody properly. So the greatest marketing machine of all time did a terrible job marketing one of its great features. So there's a lesson in this for all of us, that if we have anything that we're marketing, anything we're launching, anything we're telling people, make sure you have really good plans for internal, external, and all kinds of marketing to get people to understand the importance of the work that you have done so that they know. Otherwise, how will they know? By the way, I still put my email address here because in a world where so much is changing all the time, email still works. In a TikTok world, email still matters. And as I think about the technology, I like this quote about a different set of technologies, and that's about, this is from Martin Amis, the novelist who died last year, who said, bullets can't be recalled, they can't be uninvented, but they can be taken out of the gun, meaning there are some ways in which you can regulate or try to regulate new technologies. As we know with guns, it's not easy to do, but at least you can think about that. I love this meme from our friends at The Simpsons, and Bart is saying this is the hottest summer of his life. He's complaining, and his father says, you mean it's the coldest summer of the rest of your life? And I saw this, and I had to, of course, make a ChatGPT joke out of it and said, he's saying ChatGPT is really scary, and his father says, you mean it's the least scary, least available, least powerful it will ever be. So, don't be scared. It's about to get worse. So we want to make sure it doesn't get worse for you. Here's a fun tool called misgif.app. You can see that at the top. You may want to write it down. You can have some fun with this. It puts your face into famous movies. So here I am as Sean Connery in Dr. No, James Bond. Here I am as Han Solo, and here I am as Daniel Craig, hosting Saturday Night Live. By the way, it turns out this was the last Saturday Night Live before the pandemic, before the lockdown. They, of course, moved online and did so many great programs, just like the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce did so many programs online. They at SNL did that too, and this was that moment when it all went very badly for the planet. I also had to add, of course, me as Barbie here, as you can see. And that tool is misgif.app. Some of you will say, well, there have been these face swap tools for a long time. There have been, but none are as good or use AI in this way to make sure the face works, no matter what you're trying to do. So that's why I think this is pretty cool and worth checking out. Speaking of problems, here is what I did with ChatGPT. I went in and said, show me a picture of Elvis Presley and myself, and they showed this. I don't know who looks worse, that Elvis or that Sree. And it also says that I am the former chief writer for President Bill Clinton and executive editor of the New York Times. Now, my late mom, would have loved that to be true, but it is not true. And this is the problem, where facts are being distorted and being shared online. And we all have a responsibility to be careful about this and double check, triple check the way whenever we're answering or accessing information. Remember, folks, please post your questions or comments whether you're watching on Twitter, Facebook, or on LinkedIn. On Twitter, you have to click into the video to post your comments, but we'll monitor on Twitter as well. But if you post a comment here, we'll make sure we get to that. Here's a look at the unemployment office and thinking about jobs and where do they go and who does them. And I think the best thought on this comes from Daniel Pink, who's an amazing technology writer. And he says that AI won't replace humans, but humans using AI will replace humans not using AI. So that's something that we want to be thinking about, that humans using AI will replace humans not using AI. That doesn't mean it's going to happen today, but it is already happening in some places to some people. One of the ways to understand AI is to think about the 3 waves of the AI evolution, according to Mustafa Suleyman, who's just joined Microsoft AI as the CEO. He was formerly one of the founders of Google's DeepMind. And he says classification was the first level, where you say, that's a tree, that's a man, that's a horse, and you teach computers that. The second wave is what we're in now, where you're typing in something and something brand new comes along that never existed. That's generative AI. The last wave of what they call interactive AI is when the AIs can work autonomously. They can communicate with each other and just do things without us being involved. Some people find that very exciting, and others will find it pretty scary. One way I think about this is with in versions of Zoom now and versions of Teams now, there are ways in which you can join a call and type in and say, catch me up, and it'll tell you what happened. You can ask for a transcript, or you can say, what are the action items? And it'll say, Jane is going to do this, John is going to do this, etc. In the next version, in this so that exists today. In the interactive version, you can go in and instead of it saying Jane is going to do this task, the AI will do the task, right? And then send it to John or whatever the action item was. And this is 3 to 5 to 10 years away. And some people will find that very exciting and will want that. Other people will not want that right away. And this is how you see this in Zoom. You see the summary button, the AI companion button, catch me up, what are action items. So this exists right now in Zoom if you have the right the right access on Zoom. So check this out. It's the Zoom AI companion, and the summary sends you a summary in a half hour after the talk is done. We're in the middle of so much hype around AI. Look at this. A vodka brand has said it has a AI-powered party builder. Well, the fact is, if you need an AI-powered party builder, you don't know how to party. But it just tells you how much hype there is. And they're adding the word AI into many products, including existing products. If you buy a lot of tech platforms, services, as many of us do, you will see that your reps are going to call you and say, or email you and say, hey, we have this new AI feature, and charge you more money for it. And I'd be very wary of these, because this technology is so new, 18 months or so, the generative AI technology, that most companies are still figuring it out. And apart from a handful of them, most of these AI add-ons that I have seen are not worth paying more money for. As with a lot of things, we are already our plates are full of tech that we have to deal with. Make sure that the features they're offering you are worth it for you, that they'll fit into your workflow and your life flow, and then it's worth exploring. That doesn't mean in a few months from now it won't be an absolute killer feature that you want, but for now I would say go slow on adding all kinds of AI services unless they make sense for you. Cosmo magazine did the world's first AI magazine cover. If you look at the bottom of the astronaut's boot, you'll see it says it only took 20 seconds to make. And think about designers. Does that mean we don't need designers anymore? No, absolutely not. It just means that you have to understand how to use the technology within the work that you're doing. You might remember a few years ago, everyone was told you have to learn how to code, otherwise you're going to be unemployed. And as a result, we had so many people taking coding classes after work, and people signing up and doing remote classes, in-person classes, all of that. Well, one of the things that these AI tools can do really well is coding. And therefore, that doesn't mean, though, that we don't need coders, but it means we need to understand what coders can do, and the coders need to understand how to use AI in their work. But the fact that we would need millions of new coders, or everybody had to be a coder, that is certainly not the case anymore. For the right people, it still makes sense to learn how to code. The big names in AI, a bunch of them got together and wrote about the dangers of their product. And if you think about, say, the tobacco industry, you can think about for how long the tobacco industry denied that there were any dangers, and then they now acknowledge it, as you know, very prominently about the dangers. Well, these folks in the AI space took just a few months, within 6 months of launch, said that the risk of extinction from AI should be at the same level of pandemics and nuclear war. And just to think about that, the fact that they would admit that shows a very different approach to business than most of us are used to. But at the same time, they didn't write a 1,000-page report and say, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. They basically wrote the sentence that said, good luck, everybody. We're out of here. We're going to go back and just do what we're doing. And that's problematic as we think about who's going to fix these problems. This is something that I want you to kind of keep in mind. We talk a lot about kind of the words that come out in AI and how they're used, but there are also a whole bunch of other things. Images, for example. Here is our beagle, and we said paint a beagle eating a dosa, which is a South Indian crepe, and you can see it did that. I said an impressionist oil painting of someone doing an AI workshop, and here's a cyberpunk illustration of someone doing an AI workshop. And this you may want to take a screenshot of or use your phone and take a picture. This is any art generator cheat sheet. So you want to know how to use those art generators. An adjective, a noun, a verb, and the style you want. Do you want it in pencil drawing? Do you want it as watercolors? Do you want it in the style of Van Gogh? This is the cheat sheet you should know. So you may want to grab that. I'll give you a second to do that while I grab some water. Remember, please post your comments and questions, and also your favorite AI tools. I have a list that I share at all of these sessions, which is coming up toward the end, and would love to add yours for the future as well. So thank you all for sharing your questions and your thoughts as we go back, and push back too, please. This is all so new to all of us. I'm going to show you 2 motorcycles and 2 examples of AI generated art. So here's one and here's another. Can you tell which one has a major mistake? Well, I'm sure you see the mistakes in this one. Very obvious, right? Someone's turned around, someone doesn't have a foot, etc. There are mistakes here and there are mistakes here. If you're a motorcycle expert, you can tell there's something wrong with the handlebars and a couple of other things. The problem is that mistakes are not always going to be this obvious. They're also going to be like this. So what that means is that your expertise matters. That's one of the things when someone says to me, and you might be thinking this, Sree, you've said this is non-scary, but you're showing us a lot of scary stuff. Well, one of the things is that expertise matters and is going to matter even more in the world of AI. So human expertise is going to matter, and you'll be able to tell what the errors are in here, as well as what are the errors in here. By the way, on a side note, I often see the CAPTCHA, where they say, are you a robot? And then I make you identify motorcycles or a bus on that little grid. And I often wonder if AI can't tell that those are the buses and those are the motorcycles, then I don't know what we're worried about. This is one of my favorite tools. This is an angry email translator. You type in something nasty and it makes it very soft and nice on the right. Someone saw this and said, I want the opposite. Can you arrange that? And that's something that you can, I'm sure someone has done that as well. So I want to just show you like a range of things that are out there and what people are doing with these tools. One of the important things is this AI content detector, knowing when something is AI and when something is not AI. And this content detector took one of my newsletters, I uploaded it, and it said it's 97% human. It's 100% human. And I don't mind 97 is okay, but what if my professor's cutoff was 98%? That's what we have to worry about for our children, our grandchildren, nieces, nephews, friends, family friends. Some of us are in school. How do we fight this when the professor thinks that this is a major problem and goes after us, right? Like that's something that we should be paying close attention to. Here is another example of how these computers are thinking and what they're doing. Here, this young lady on the left posted her photograph into an AI and said, make the picture better. And you can see what it did. It lightened her skin. It changed her eyes, changed her body, because the computers are created by human beings. The biases are done through human input, not by the machines. So that's something that we should never forget when we're dealing with all of this tech. This is a major problem when we're looking at all of these tools. One of the things that I tell people is, especially those of you who are already playing around a lot with AI, is write better prompts. So here are some very specific things you can do. Be clear and specific. Avoid vague or open-ended prompts. Use relevant keywords that are related to the topic you want the model to generate content about. Very, very important for you to do that. So those three are good ideas. And then the best new thing that I can think of that's happened in the last 4 or 5 months with regard to ChatGPT and all of these prompts is ask it how it knows. Why do you think that? What evidence do you have for that? Any chance you've made mistakes? That forces the system to then go back and show you the work. It's like math homework, right? Like if you're doing 5th grade math or 10th grade math or whatever, you've got the answer, but here I want to show the steps. Show me the steps, so that it then forces itself to come up with answers. You've heard the term hallucinations for mistakes on AI. I think that's a cop-out to call it hallucinations because it gets them off the hook. These are not hallucinations. These are mistakes. They're errors. They're big effing deals, and we need to hold these platforms to account. And don't call them hallucinations, because hallucinations sound like a mirage or something. They're kind of harmless, but they're not. And we need to be very, very careful, and we need to push when we're doing this. So that's something I'd ask you to think about. I also have some more prompt tips here. Again, if you're joining us late, we'll be sending out the links to the presentation, so you can find all of this in there. Otherwise, if you're a bit.ly user, bit.ly/SreeAI, lowercase SREEAI. So it's very easy to find. So you can take a look at that. So as we wind up here, I want to just show you some tools that I recommend you try in addition to ChatGPT and Gemini, which is the new Bard from Google. I recommend Claude AI, Perplexity, a whole bunch of other tools in here, and a couple of good tools that you'll want to, newsletters that you'll want to read, which will help you. By the way, I see that Lynn has said, show me the evidence, which I like. She says, Lynn says, I like this. Show me the evidence. That's great. Folks, if you have a question in Facebook, you can post it on Twitter or on LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. And then if we don't get enough questions, I'm sure Laurie will have lots of questions for me in just a couple of minutes. So as we're thinking about these, there must be tools you like. So just post them in the chat so that we can share them with the team as well and everybody watching. And I've been writing a lot in my newsletter about AI. This is my Substack. If you just search sreenet.substack.com, you'll find them. But just by the headlines, you can tell how my thinking has progressed. You can see number 8 was last year. So this all launched in November of 2022. I did my first piece in February of 23. And then talking about number 7 was about what does education mean in the age of AI? What should teachers be doing? What should professors be doing? And I'm now working with multiple universities on helping faculty and administrators think of this question. The liberal arts are more important than ever is exactly what it says. As I said, that we need the companies that are the successful marriage of liberal arts and tech are the ones that are going to use AI really well. At number 5 is all AI companies use the public as a lab. This has just been thrust upon us. No one asked for our permission. No one told us what we're doing. And now we're just soaking in this stuff. And we have to really be aware of that in the work that we're doing, that this is now all on us. And number 3 was about the AI acceleration, how things are just taking off, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. Next was about copyright and fair use, lots of issues around that. And then I just said, don't call them hallucinations. And finally, for now, AI isn't ready to be everywhere, but it is everywhere. It's being deployed. And it's one thing to use it in a marketing tool, right? It's another to be used in cars and something else. So we want to be very aware of that and where we go from here. So I encourage you to take a look, and if you have any questions, please do get in touch. So I'm going to leave you with some takeaways, and then I'm going to ask Lori to join me again for Q&A. So my takeaways are that no tech can live up to such hype because it's just overhyped, right? But at the same time, every industry will be affected, and lots of money will be made and lost, has already been made and lost. So you'll say, Sree, how does those two things you're saying can't live up to the hype, and it's already upending every industry? So we have to be paying close attention and knowing that this is all happening so fast. Most careers will be upended in unexpected ways. Pay close attention, learn new skills, just as you are today. We appreciate you all being here. I love this line from Daniel Pink that AI won't replace humans. Humans using AI will replace humans not using AI. And then don't call them hallucinations. They are errors, mistakes, big effing deals. And then be vigilant about the dangers. AI companies won't fix the problems. I'm sure the Q&A we can get into how do we compare this moment to social media and the impact social media has had on the world. And it's been terrible to see how social media could have, the direction it could have gone in and where it went, and the crisis we're in right now. And finally, Team Human will prevail is what I say. But it's also important to note what kind of humans will prevail. Is it going to be exactly the same Silicon Valley wins, and then the rest of us are just following in their footsteps and just like crumbs on the table? Or can we see that there's a better distribution of how the power of AI, the value of AI, the benefits of AI are spread around the planet? Those are some of the things I think about. And I think with that, I'll ask Lori to join us again.
That was amazing, Sree, as always. So much to think about. I think about our congressional breakfast last June 2023. Things were bubbling around AI as a matter of topic for the congressional delegation and the like. So we played a simulated voice of Lori White asking a question, and whether it would just, whether the crowd could distinguish my actual voice from the AI generated voice that was created. So, we're roughly a year later, and now we are talking, seriously upending industries and careers and individuals. So it raises the question, Sree, if you're sitting watching this right now and, you're prepared, that this is something that's coming after you, despite the fact that humans will prevail. The question is, how does one, as an individual, a business professional, figure out how to get ahead of it and how to know how it's going to affect an individual? How is it going to affect my job? How is it going to affect my organization? How is it going to affect my industry? How do I figure that out other than asking ChatGPT to give me the and asking a very specific, non-open-ended question?
Thank you. That's a great question, and I'm sure there are lots of questions like that we just couldn't fit into 30-minute presentation. But the main thing is to read a lot, go to sessions like this, talk to your peers, talk to people in your industry. Because this is going to affect people by industry. It's also going to affect people by title, people by role. And you should make sure you're talking to people who are in the same boat with you, and try to see what are the, try to see around the corners, because this stuff is coming and it's coming so fast. This is that moment, Laurie, that I look at being very similar to, if you go back in time to like 1995 when the web came around. And you remember, Laurie, how many folks treated it as a fad. Even Bill Gates, if you go back, did not understand the impact the web was going to have to the. Of course, he understood it soon enough, but he didn't. And we saw this also with social media around 2010, 2011. I remember Laurie talking to a group of investing professionals about where they should be thinking about this. And at that moment, when I said that social media is no longer just a plaything, it's become something for businesses. That moment when I said that, Instagram had not been bought yet. Pinterest had like 10,000 users or 100,000 users. Now it has hundreds of millions of users. TikTok wasn't going to be around for another 5, 7, 8 years. So what we have to do is constantly read and talk to people, ask questions. And there's going to be also a lot of hype, just like I told you about the coding. And coding's still important. I just want to keep saying that. But also, Laurie, if you remember back in like 2012, there was the great MOOC panic and crisis. MOOCs were the massive open online courses from great universities. And they're saying this is going to end, like free education is going to be everywhere. Well, fact is, here we are a decade plus later, and I think the impact has not been anywhere as close to what was predicted. So, but in this case, you can see, because it's happening to us in real time, as opposed to a prediction, that you can see the changes are here now.
So I can't think of anything worse than the confluence of social media, fake news, and AI, coming together and actually presenting itself in the, in the bombing clip that you showed at the beginning of the presentation. So how do we gird ourselves for this?
Not trusting your eyes, not trusting your ears. It's so sad, right? That this is the situation we're in now, that we just can't trust these. We can't trust our own eyes and ears anymore. One of the ways I think about this is in terms of there's a congressman who thought he was sending his daughter thousands of dollars in cash, but in fact it was a fake account, a cloned voice of his daughter, which you were showing, that you cloned the voice, your own voice, and played it at the congressional breakfast. So in this case, I tell every family member, everybody should know about the dangers. And if your mother, your daughter, your father, son, somebody calls you and says they need money, ask them for the safe word. What is the safe word that we have all agreed to know that we're dealing with family members and not something fake? Even inside companies, there's a very common scam now called a CEO scam, where employees are getting emails from what looks like their boss, and it says, I need you to pay this bill or send $1,000 somewhere, or amounts of money. Our own little company at Digimentors, a brand new intern got a note from me saying, I need you to go to the Apple store and buy 10 $200 Apple cards and send them somewhere. And this wonderful intern, just in order to do the work, just went out, and to be helpful, went out and did that, and spent $2,000 she didn't have on this. Apple didn't help, the police didn't help, nobody could help. And so just being really attuned to, when in the old days we used to say, if something's too good to be true or too bad to be true online, it probably isn't. Same thing we have to now imagine happening in that confluence, as you put it.
Okay, so we have a question about anything related to supply chain. I'm not sure, Mark, what exactly you're talking about in that, kind of an open-ended question. So, Sree, can you make sense of that?
Sure. I'll just say that we are seeing every industry being affected, and I want to show you, if I can, the industries, just kind of a list of industries that are affected. And through this, Mark's question about anything to do with the supply chain, right? Because the supply chain is all about predicting when things will be available, what the demand is, and getting things there just in time. And therefore, all along the supply chain, we can see the impact of AI. So I know this is a little small for most people to see, but let's try and see if we can put that at full screen here so you can see it a little clearer. But you can see this is the 2024 list of industries that have AI, the top private kind of startups in AI, the most promising AI startups. That's what this is a list of from the folks at CB Insights, which I encourage you all to know about and look at. But materials, waste management, mining, sales, you can see security, defense. All of these are tools. In the presentation, I have put these in there so you folks can grab it and see. This is a 2024 version. This is a 2023 version. Climate tech, warehouse and logistics. Covariant is something that Mark will want to read up about. Covariant, CO variant, that he'll want to look at. So there are just so many tools out there, platforms that are just being launched that some of these are going to be helpful and worth checking out.
So, Sree, are you suggesting that CB Insights is a tool to understand or aggregates what the potential impact of AI is going to be, or how AI can be harnessed within your particular industry using CB Insights? Is that what the message there is?
Well, I'll just say that CB Insights, like the information, these are kind of new information companies that specialize in data and getting behind the information about companies. So these are just two of them: CB Insights, the letter C, the letter B Insights, and theinformation.com. These are kind of the platforms that we should be reading to understand the changes coming all around us. And these are not free because they charge, because they're valuable, just like you pay for a Wall Street Journal subscription or you pay for your local paper, etc. So these are two things worth keeping an eye on. It makes sense for you to subscribe to learn more.
Mm-hmm. You said at the top of the hour, though, just like sort of be aware of them, but don't feel any pressure that you have to buy them. You have to see how it integrates with your workflow, and you have to compare and use your own human mind and perception to determine if, in fact, these tools have anything to add to your perspective on the world, right?
Yep, put it so well. Thank you.
What about another undercurrent of this is the discussion about the tremendous amount of energy that AI is consuming, and the degree to which AI is heating up the planet with its data lakes and data warehouses. What is your perspective on that, Sree? Is that something that we should continue to keep an eye on as well?
Very well put, and an important topic. For those who have not been following this, the data centers that make AI work need a lot more power, a lot more electricity, a lot more water is being used as a result. So what we want to think about is, what is the price of, just like when you're traveling, or what's the carbon footprint of this? One benefit of AI is that they're being used inside these power plants to tell them when peak load is coming, when to expect problems, etc. So they're helpful, but at the same time, we're seeing this. So Saudi Arabia, which is investing hundreds of billions of dollars in AI, one of the things that they're doing is telling these companies, move your data centers out to us in Saudi Arabia. We have a lot of land, empty land, and a lot of sunlight. So we'll create these solar-powered data warehouse, data centers for you. But as we know, as we're reading about TikTok, and governments are, especially American companies, governments of different levels of U.S. governments are all very worried about where our data sits, whether it's in Saudi Arabia or China or whatever. These are questions that we have to figure out. One of the problems, Lori, as you know, is that that many people in the government, many folks who have the power to regulate and to think about these issues, haven't done a good job about it. I do know that the Rhode Island delegation has been really good on these topics, and I've heard them talk about this, but most people in government are not equipped to do this. And you will remember anytime you've seen Tim Cook or Mark Zuckerberg go in front of Congress, many times they just kind of run rings around the questioners because the level of preparedness, information, expertise is not there. We need to change that.
Let's talk about how you, Sree, use AI in your daily workflow, and give us a few tips on how we can use it constructively, how we can trust it, how we can use it in a way that passes muster, that we're not essentially mailing it in, that we are collecting prompts so that we can add our own human touch to it. So give us a perspective on how to use it in a way that we can talk about and be proud of.
Well, that's something that I haven't had a chance to. I just do it, right? So let me give you some couple of ways to think about this. The first is to know about the tools you're using. So on your phone, download some of the apps that you're already using on your laptop, and some of you may have done that already, so you can get a sense of how they work. One of the tools I recommend everyone try is a Microsoft Copilot. It's a free version that they give away that you can use on your phone, use on your laptop. They, of course, have, because they own ChatGPT, have built in Copilot into Microsoft 365, and they're charging $30 per person per month to use that AI integration at the highest level. By the way, do you remember when I was telling you about Zoom and it shows you, what you missed, what the action items are? I know someone who has access to an advanced version of Teams, and they were telling us that they maybe on the invites for the things they don't want to go to, and they'll ask questions like, did my boss say anything? Was my name mentioned? So that's a kind of tricky way to use these tools. But in my case, what I'm doing is I'm working on the prompts all the time, and when I'm using it to make art for my newsletter, for example. But I want to kind of dig deeper and see which are the things that are working now and which are the things that are not working. And then reading a lot about this is some of the tools that I mentioned already, some of the newsletters. But again, being super skeptical about everything. This is something that this level of skepticism I haven't had to think about since all the social media things started, when there's so much fake news on there and fake information. And especially as we go into this election, Laurie, we have to be very, very aware of things that you're doing. You can imagine robocalls at scale from one of the candidates saying, "Hey folks, we got this election in the bag, stay home, you don't need to go." And as you know, it's so hard to vote sometimes in the US that people will be like, "Oh, good, my candidate has won, I'm going to stay home." And it can be sent to hundreds of millions of people. And we have not just the elections in the US, we have elections around the world this year, 60 plus elections. And I worry a lot about that.
What advice do you have for the chamber itself, Sree?
Well, I'm sure you're finding new uses for it, especially in the connection with the with your members. Being, as you always been, being, your convening power is what's the most important part of what you do. Bringing in your members, giving them a chance to interact with each other, with important figures in industry and government. And in all along the way, there might be efficiencies, there might be ways to get deeper information, sharing better content out there. Those are the things that I would look at.
Things I've heard some people when they begin a process of asking ChatGPT to provide some background to maybe create a social media post or a paragraph or two on something or other. Then they say, well, I wonder if anyone will know that this is really something that didn't come out of my own brain. It was generated through AI. You pointed to a couple of resources that can check the various postings, and just to ascertain, the degree to which there is a human element in it. Can you dive a little bit deeper into how that works and how you might responsibly and ethically use some content that you've generated, but be able to improve upon it with your own brain?
Sure. Thank you for that. Let me just show the tool that I was mentioning. This is from writer.com, AI content detector. There are so many of these, and basically they're going to be AI detectors detecting AI, kind of a cat and mouse kind of thing. But we're seeing clients telling their consultants or their ad companies or their marketing departments or their marketing vendors, we don't want this to be AI. Don't mail it in. We want you to participate. We want to see the work. And what I would do is, there's a thing where a big newspaper company, one of the world's most famous, announced, we will be AI free, as a way to show that they're ahead of the game in some way, or they're special in some way. And I think that's wrong, because that's, how to put it, you can't be short and you're completely AI free, because a freelancer who's not at the office may use it. Also, all AI is not bad. There's so many things that AI can do well, including taking big documents and helping sift through and finding the highlights, things like that can do really well. Or we've seen the Grammys announce that no AI touched music will be allowed to be entered. They will have to pull back on that, because we have auto-tune, we have even electric synthesizers are to some purists not the kind of music they want to be, but we now accept those, right? We have for decades. So with every new technology, there's this effort to try and regulate it, control it. We want to do the right kind of regulations, the right kind of control, and not get caught up in the wrong things. By the way, that newspaper that I mentioned now is sending its content in a deal with one of the big AI platforms to have their content in there. And they'll pull that back. That promise will not last.
What are you predicting in terms of AI policy and governance?
Well, there were two big things that happened last year. The Biden administration announced a whole range of efforts and standards that we should be thinking about, including that every federal agency must have a chief AI officer. And we saw that in London, there was a big AI summit led by Rishi Sunak, the prime minister there, and laying out some guidelines. And I think those were a good start, but we have a long way to go. I will say that the Chief AI Officer Summit in DC is coming up this June, and I would recommend all of you to check that out. If you just search Chief AI Officer Summit or go to cdosummit.com, you will learn about that. And some of you might want to send somebody to attend that in DC, or maybe if you're or somebody from your team should be there attending or speaking, maybe depending on where they are. But this is one of those areas where we're all learning together, and the more information we share, the more successful we're all going to be.
Will you be presenting, Sree, at that particular gathering?
Last year at the inaugural one, I was there for the 2 days that they were doing this, but I'm missing this year's summit. But I encourage everybody to know about it, and there'll be other things all over the country. People are getting together and talking about this.
So fast forward 12 months from now, which is certainly an infinity. As we close out our session here, what new things do you imagine will bubble up that will truly shock us in the moment? So I know this is a non-scary discussion. I'm not sure about that, Sree, but anyway, put on your prognosticator's hat. What do you see in the next?
Well, I tell people I'm a terrible prognosticator, because if I was good, I would have predicted all those companies. I would have bought Google shares when it wasn't even called Google, right? I would have invested in them. So what I will say is that as we look, we're going to see, and Microsoft and OpenAI this year showed us Sora, SORA, which is a video platform where video. So you type in a description and it shows you video of such high quality that Tyler Perry, who is the filmmaker, was building an $800 million studio and movie making center in Atlanta. He saw the video of just the version 1, and he said, "I'm shutting that down." And we in business, folks in the chamber, have to really think about this. Imagine if you're the Atlanta Chamber of Commerce, what would have happened to all those people? Thousands of jobs will now not will go away because he saw this one video, and he said that it'll be so easy to create videos. I don't need to build a giant infrastructure. So I also want everybody here who's in business to really think about what AI can do, and just because it can do it, should we do it? Including, when you think about people, that there are going to be tens of millions of certain kinds of jobs lost in the world, maybe hundreds of millions. What is our role as businessmen and women to help think about what happens to those folks, right? How much retraining can we do? And should we do it? And how do we do it? Those are things that I think a lot about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Sree, this has been phenomenal. So tell us about how we can get in touch with you and how anybody listening may wish to connect with you and your team from DigiMentors to potentially learn a bit more about what you and your team know about this important topic.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This is our information. You can find it here. By the way, Lynn, thank you. Lynn says, thank you, very informative, and appreciate the additional list of tools you provided. Thank you, Lynn, for that. Appreciate it. My contact information is there, the email and the QR code. You can have that. And the things we do are listed on our website at digimentors.group. And we can see we can help people with their AI policy strategy as well as scenario planning. And I love doing these workshops, so always looking for opportunities to talk about this. I say that, Laurie, I say I'm a digital evangelist as well as a digital skeptic, and you need both in order to do well in the world today.
All right, so the human brain will prevail until AI figures out how to hijack our own brains. So we still have a little bit of time left, I guess, before that fully happens. Okay, so thank you, Sree. Thank you to the team. Appreciate it. And we will see you next time.